Sure. Hi everybody, it's Alex and Graham from the LDC. We're just going to talk for around 10 minutes about current activities and some of our ambitions in the coming weeks and months. Just very quickly, in terms of the LDC, from a branding point of view, we describe the LDC as a community of ambitious organisations learning and improving together. And I think there's some clues there in some of the words around community, ambition, and indeed learning and improving together. So obviously the LDC runs as a membership community. We currently have 31 participating organisations, and that's very much about sharing best practice, supporting one another, sharing resources, latest thinking, and ultimately for Alex and I offering, a great learning experience. So just a few words around the LDC and our ambitions, really.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. That's it. And I think one thing that we wanted to talk about today was our commitment to the mentoring program that we're running. And so from my point of view, there are two different elements to that. So there's actually our cohort of people who are training and developing as mentors. So and they're attending regular discussions, supervision sessions, I suppose, which run a little bit like action learning groups for people who are engaged in mentoring, really learning tools, skills, proficiencies of mentoring. Things like contracting, various different mentoring models to support and structure mentoring discussions. And then there's the mentoring itself. And that so far has been a real success, I think. And we've run it for, what would you say, certainly between a year and 18 months, I think, that's been running.
Indeed. And in fact, it's interesting that we're on the call today, because I spoke to a mentee earlier today who's just been promoted into a much bigger job. And he was saying that without a doubt, the mentoring support had made a real difference to him. So he was delighted to talk about that. And I thought that was very encouraging for all of us. So I think as we move forward, we've got an increasing demand for mentors and mentees, and we'll continue to build that work, really.
Yeah, I think the real opportunity for it is that for people who want a mentor, want someone to help them to progress in their professional lives, in their career, or in their skill sets, and they are looking for someone who is outside of their own business or their own organisation to do it. And I think that that's something that the LDC's mentoring network brings that's really excellent, is that opportunity to be mentored by somebody who has a different worldview, works for a different organisation or in a different industry, but nonetheless has that kind of experience and wisdom to pass forwards. So I think it's a real opportunity. And I think one thing for the coming months would be to try and expand that network, actually, and to find more mentors and mentees who would like to be part of it.
No, indeed, Alex, and that's definitely the plan. And names are emerging all of the time. So, the work, the work is proving to be beneficial. And I think added to that is, as well as the input that we're providing, is just that psychological safety that we've talked about as part of that mentoring process. So long may that continue, and the feedback is very encouraging.
Yeah, that's great. So that's, so far I think that's been a real success. And so if anybody who's listening to this or watching it, if it's either you or somebody that you work with who would benefit from being mentored or would like to be a mentor as part of the program, and it is very much a two-way learning process, that's for sure. then please get in touch with us, and it would be great to have you on board as part of that program.
Indeed, indeed.
And so just in terms of being able to plan for that, the way we're going to be doing it is we'll be running about 2 sessions a month, generally on a Friday. So that just means that people can schedule around it and plan and organise themselves to make it so that we're getting into a bit of a rhythm with it, really. And you don't need to commit to all of those sessions, but if you could come along to some of them, then that would be great, both in terms of your professional development as a mentor, but also those sessions will also, we create time for mentors and mentees to have discussions so that we can provide a bit of structure, support and organisation around it, just because that's really important, that there is a kind of a process, a tried and tested process that is around it. So we provide that. I think the other thing we were going to talk about, Graham, was the 2-hour workshops, the 2-hour training sessions that we've been running. And so we're going to be building that forwards in the coming months as well.
And you know, and some of the subjects recently seem to be so relevant to individuals. You know, we've done some good work around time management, you know, managing upwards, prioritizing, and just avoiding that sort of burnout situation, really.
Yeah.
Alex, you know my feeling. I think that, you know, there's an underlying theme there that I'd like us to keep on building upon, really. Yeah.
I agree. I think our relationship with time continues to be a really high demand session. It's been by far and away the most well attended one, and I think it's interesting how when you get into it, it's not just a practical mechanism, you know, although there are practical tools that we talk about, actually challenges that people have with time management, particularly in the kind of hyper-connected world. Probably too much communication, actually, for most people a lot of the time, means that people do burn themselves out. They do overwork, and they find, I think, that modern working practices to be really quite stressful. And so if we can help people through that, again, with practical tools and techniques, then that's great. And the feedback that we've been having from those sessions has been really positive. So we're going to keep on building that forwards. And I think developing, you know, as I said, we've run our 2-hour time management session numerous times now. But I think that we're going to develop that out and look at supporting workshops as well around things like delegation and prioritization and managing yourself under pressure. I think that's a really, really useful thing for us to think about.
There must be a cluster of behaviours for all of us that will help us to work through those challenges. You know, they must be. And I think on the last call where we were talking about kind of corporate pressures and corporate busyness, and I just feel strongly about fighting back against some of those challenges, because if we're just passive, then the dangers will be a victim of all of that.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's a leadership point as well. You know, we talk about the trouble with busyness and things like people going to meetings. We had a great little action learning session on this recently, but going to meetings and not really being able to be present in the meeting, being too busy with dealing with the inbox or kind of firefighting and making kind of people's attendance at that meeting being really rather pointless. What an interesting conundrum. And when we talked to the group about that, we found that everybody in the group had that experience on numerous occasions. So again, looking at what's going on there, diagnosing the situation, and looking at ways to make things better, I think is part of our plan, you know, and it's really very interesting. Another thing, Graham, that we've had some interest in, and again, it's another workshop that we're going to be looking at running, is difficult conversations, giving feedback.
Indeed.
So you know, whether that's in performance management or whether it's more informal, but giving and receiving feedback again seems to be a really interesting challenge for people. And so we're digging away at that and going into the research and the literature on that to look at partly to look at why people find those conversations difficult and will often avoid them, and then to look at tools, strategies, and techniques to help people to have those conversations well. And again, we're looking at that in terms of being, bringing in a combination of, I think, experience and good evidence-based practice in this field.
I think my own experience around those difficult conversations is unfortunately the starting point is people decide at the beginning it is going to be a difficult conversation, and it doesn't need to be. Are you with me?
Yeah.
But I think people's starting point is, and that's why they avoid and they're fearful, because they've made their mind up that by definition it's going to lead to conflict.
That's right. Yeah.
And it doesn't need to.
Absolutely. But what you said there is the thing. The worst thing is that people avoid having the conversation, and it doesn't happen, and things only then tend to get worse. So it's another topic that we're really keen to explore and to get into with our LDC network. So that's good, and we'll be circulating information on those workshops, very, very shortly.
And I think, Alex, we talked about the other day is that there's a couple of really useful subject areas there, but we'd like to hear from our member organisations what else they would like to see on offer that would be helpful. So we want to just make sure we're asking that question and listening to people's response.
Absolutely, that's key. And so again, to anybody who's watching or listening, if there's anything that you'd like us to talk about, if there is any particular concerns that you have or skill gaps that you have or that you've noticed in your colleagues or in your business, we'd be very grateful to know about that, because Graham and I, as learning and development professionals, what we'll do is we'll do the research and we'll do the reading and we'll talk to the right people to put the workshops together, so that we can help you to close that gap. But again, that insight and feedback from practitioners in our network, people who are doing the job, is absolutely vital, because that will point us in the right direction.
Indeed. And Alex, I suppose the other thought is about our Fridays together. I can't help but think there's also the facility, if people want some one-to-one discussions and some one-to-one coaching about particular scenarios and how we can help, then I think there's capacity to do that with our work on a Friday.
Absolutely. That's right. And that could be one-to-ones with me and Graham, or alternatively, actually, that you join our mentoring network, and that again, we can actually create that kind of learning relationship with the right person within the professional network. So yes, absolutely, that would be, and again, we will be led by the wants and needs of our audience.
Yeah, so I think the ambition is on the Fridays we cover a lot of ground. We're fairly fluid, we're flexible in terms of what people need, but we're just ultimately providing a really great learning experience. Really, that's certainly our ambition for you and I.
That's it. And Graham and I will be sending out more of these little videos where we'll be just talking about what we're thinking about, what we're planning, what's going on with the LDC. We'll be sending out one of these videos periodically. But please get in touch. Please, become part of the conversation. Let us know what your concerns are, what you're thinking, and how you would like to work with the LDC, and we will be responsive to that.
Indeed. Yeah. Thanks, Alex, and enjoy your remaining trip to Scotland.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Graham. And to everyone who's listening, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you at a mentoring session or an action learning set or a 2-hour video tutorial very soon. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Alex.